All right, Khan, Shalom, to the Lord's elect of the household of faith. Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Kal Halal, Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Waha Rechaha Kodash. Double honor goes out to the venerable apostles and the elder bishops and the elders at the Great Millstone GMS, who do rule well and teach well, laboring in this word and doctrine. And salutations to the hopeful elect, as usual. Abba Ratazah, which means Father willing. So Father willing, this lesson is quick and edifying. So inspiration for this lesson is actually drawn from this article that you can see on your screen from pbs.org, NewsHour. All right. And this was put up recently on the 8th of June, 2026, the year of agents, apostates, and sellouts. Now today is Saturday, the 13th of June. Okay. So this will be a quick famine update. All right. One of the deadly end-time plagues of the Most High Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, right, he would use to starve you evil, prideful people to death. Okay, so the headline says millions lose SNAP benefits as one big beautiful bill's stricter requirements kick in. Yeah, SNAP enrollment has fallen sharply nationwide since the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act last summer. More than 3.5 million people have lost access to food assistance as states implement new eligibility requirements and stricter application processes. William Brangham reports on what's happening and speaks with Harvard professor of public health policy Sarah Naomi for more. Okay. Enrollment in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, has fallen sharply nationwide since the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act last summer. There are over 38 million people getting the food assistance, but more than 3.5 million of them have lost access as states are implementing a series of new eligibility requirements and stricter processes for applying. See, it's getting tougher and tougher. Yeah. All right. And in the households where the guardians, right, are blind or paralyzed, handicapped, crippled, disabled, lame, or what have you, this would pose an obvious challenge to them. So bear that in mind. Okay. So it remains to be seen how E will develop these stipulations, with these snap cuts. Okay. Millions to lose. Look at that, millions to lose snap benefits. This is no joke. All right. William Brangham. That's right, Amna, sorry. Last year's Republican centerpiece budget law is projected to cut $186 billion in federal spending on SNAP over the next decade. We don't have a decade left anyway. We are the final generation. The Lord is going to come back before 2036. So that nearly halfway through the year. But it's not only about funding cuts. The new law changed eligibility criteria, like raising the age limit for work requirements from 54 to 64 and increasing the amount of documentation required to enroll, making it harder to be eligible. Yeah. That's what it is in simple terms. He likes to make things harder than what it seems to be. With fancy words, $100 words, £100 words, whatever terms. They like to make things difficult than what it already is. All right. Since then, every state has seen a decline in people enrolled in SNAP, led by Arizona, where participation has fallen by 51%, according to some estimates. And those who are still eligible are receiving much lower benefits and often facing longer reauthorization times. Right? And that won't be enough. Often facing longer reauthorization times. So Presley, SNAP recipient, I went from having a little over $200 a month for groceries from SNAP funds to having absolutely nothing for 3 months. Just think about that. Imagine all the other things you got to pay for as well. A little over $200 a month for groceries from SNAP funds to having absolutely nothing for 3 months. Now, us Jakes are used to, being in poverty and being at the bottom. Obviously, we're at the bottom, and going through hardship. E. Nah, they can't handle stress and pressure. All right. I lost weight. I ate less. I had 1.5 meals a day instead of 2 or 3. I pinched pennies. I saved food from the jobs I work at where they have free snacks. I took things home, and then when I was recertified, they renewed me for a significantly lower amount. So now I get $50 a month. See? So yeah, another omen of famine coming to America, man. Children, elderly, they face a great risk, of course. Remember that. All right. Yeah. So you see, start feeling the hunger. It's gonna be super duper tough. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 6, and verse 5. The third seal, famine. All right. And it reads, "And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, 'Come and see.' And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand." Okay, the black horse with the balances in his hand is a representation of judgment, but it is also a representation of slavery, right? When, Yahweh was here in captivity, all right? Of course, all the tribes were pressed together in Babylon the Great, America as well, all right? Jeremiah 50:33 tells you that too. Okay. Let's go into the word balances.
Strong's G 2218, Zugos. Zugos.
Yeah. All right, yoke. A yoke that is put on drought cattle. All right, all you have to do, and who had yokes around their necks? The Israelites. Type that in Google Images. It'll come up. All right, but yeah, yoke. This is a representation of slavery, but also a representation of judgment, hard times. Okay, metaphorically used of any burden or bondage as that of slavery, just like it says there. All right, of troublesome laws imposed on one, especially the Mosaic law. Troublesome laws, which are draconian laws. Right, you can link this up with Revelation chapter 13. All right. Hence the name is so transferred to the commands of Hamashiach, as to contrast with them the commands of the Pharisees, which were a veritable yoke. Yet even the anointed's commands must be submitted to, though easier to be kept. A pair of scales of balance. Okay. Yeah. So there you have it, man. All right. So Revelation chapter 6, verse 6. "And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." Okay, and this truth will not be distorted because it will enter into the spirits of the elect. All right, from out of the nation of Israel, because this is the key to the salvation. All right, the oil and the wine represents the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures. Okay. But, resources will be compromised in these last days, especially with the Strait of Hormuz situation, right? That accounts for 3/5, which is 60% of the world's global oil supply, and other petroleum, dominant based, products that produces, certain items that are byproducts of petroleum that are critical for the survival of an economy as well, including fertilizer that is, further affecting the farming industry. So this is doom waiting to happen. Okay. Again, the oil and wine represents the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures. So you see, people may seem as though things are going to be getting back to normality and, it's all right because it's not hit them, it's not come to their doorstep. But at the moment, society will collapse. All right? Simple as that. Yeah. Let's go to, let's get a precept in the book of the prophet Ezekiel. Right? Ezekiel was the prophet, of course, and in the book of Ezekiel there are prophecies. Let's go to chapter 4 and verse 16. Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem, and they shall eat bread by weight and with care, and they shall drink water by measure and with astonishment. There you go. So this entails rationings. Okay. Yeah. The rationings are coming back in a major way. And let's chat this. Were there, because we know the word, but I just want information on it. Were there rationings in World War One and World War Two? Yes, there was rationing during both World War One and World War Two, although it was generally more extensive during World War Two. World War One, 1914 to 1918. Many countries faced food shortages because farms, factories, and shipping were distributed by the war. Disrupted by the war. In the UK, voluntary rationing began before some foods became officially controlled. Countries such as Germany experienced severe shortages due to naval blockades. Common ration items included bread, sugar, meat, butter, and fats. Now, World War II, 1939 to 1945, rationing was much more organised and widespread. In the UK, food rationing began in January 1940. People received ration books and coupons. Rationed items include, of course you shouldn't be eating this, but bacon and ham. That's for E to consume. Yeah, meat, butter, cheese, sugar, tea, eggs, milk, limited for some adults. And non-food items were also rationed: clothing, petrol, soap, furniture. Wow. An interesting fact, some food rationing in the UK continued until 1954, nearly 9 years after the war ended. The purpose of rationing in both wars was to ensure that limited supplies were shared fairly and that the armed forces received the resources they needed. Okay, yeah. So rationing's coming back in a major way. And it won't just be limited to food and drink. Okay. So it will come back, but it won't be limited to just food and drink either. Energy, electricity. Right? Just like it said here, non-food items were also rationed. Yeah, clothing maybe even be rationed. Yeah. Gas, petrol. All right. Household items, necessities, toiletries. Okay. Many other things will be rationed. All right, other than just food and water. Okay. Yeah. Back at this article. William Brangham. There are other people who argue that this decline is also a sign of just a return to normalcy post P word, that the P word caused all of this incredible need in the country. Snap responded, but now we are moving back to a no, things ain't been ever since the L downs. It's not really been normal. Okay, yeah, they let you go out and do things again, but it's never been the same. So nah, we ain't going back to normalcy whatsoever. Normality, nah. Jack Salmon. The SNAP program it tends to be pretty cyclical. So what that means is during economic crises, like we saw in 2008 to 2009, when the unemployment rate goes up, we see the program participation also goes up with that, as families struggle more during times of economic strain. What then happens after the crisis, as the unemployment rate comes down and the sort of business cycle improves, we then see the SNAP numbers come down as well. But following the fill in the blank, it remained elevated for quite a few years, really through the end of 2024. Oh. Meanwhile, from the Times of India, this was put up on June the 11th, 2026. Microsoft to lay off 1,000 employees at Xbox's CEO, Asha Sharma, appointed the woman head of that, orders a reset. Yeah, look, man, they're going down. Things are going down, man. Microsoft Xbox division is heading into July with a layoff plan. You got this Elamite woman. All right. CEO. Don't go anywhere. A marketing budget cut and possibly a studio closure on the table. So Microsoft Xbox division is heading into July with a layoff plan. A marketing budget cut and possibly a studio closure on the table, according to Bloomberg's CEO Asha Sharma uses her first 100 days to set up what she's calling a full business reset. It's about to go down, man. The cut's expected shortly after. See, it's why you don't have a woman in that position, in a head position like that. The cut's expected shortly after Microsoft's fiscal year ends June 30th, will be the first major restructuring under Sharma, who took over from longtime Xbox chief Phil Spencer in February. Yeah, man. Grandis shall cease as well. Let's get that and then we can close out. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 3, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble and the strong men shall bow themselves and the grinders cease because they are few and those that look out the windows will be darkened. Yeah, it's a dark future. Okay. Economy watchers, keepers of the house, yeah. Less and less work, less and less jobs. Unemployment rate going up, yeah. Verse 4, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. Yeah, people getting up, ahead of time, setting the alarm clock early, trying to get, into the line of work, to try and, apply for more work, jobs. AI taking over, robots are taking over, yeah. And the music is, it's trash, really, okay. Remember rap, right? That was, rap back then, they conveyed, strong messages, intellectual messages, intellectual thoughts, okay, things like that. When Esau got a hold of it, now it's all demonic, okay. It's all glorifying wickedness and stuff like that, all right. And prop up our people to push that music, to push that vibration, into the rap industry, all right. Okay, rapping about doing drugs and all that, so hey, but yeah, society's on its way out, man. That's good. Yeah, SNAP benefits, millions to lose SNAP benefits. So I'm gonna end the lesson there. I'm gonna say Shalom to the Most High's elect of the household of faith, and a bad babal